Hi, I'm CJ and this is my RC channel. Well, normally I put all my turnbuckles facing in one direction, but it looks like I'm going to have to break with that so that I can have the part where you can get a wrench on this as far to the outside as possible. So these four guys here. Okay. Now, I'm not worried about the exact measurements as long as these are started equally. Everything will get adjusted later when I get this on a tuning board. So, normally, like I said, I do them everything with a rotation in one direction so that it's easier to just figure stuff out, but I'm not going to be able to do that. Most Formula Ones, you end up having to sacrifice that. In case I'm not being clear, most turnbuckles have a notch or a mark of some kind that tells you which side turns clockwise versus counterclockwise. And so that way, if you put the notches all facing the same direction, front and rear, when you go to make adjustments, to make the turnbuckle smaller by both pieces screwing inward, it's the same direction on all of the turnbuckles. So for going from forward to rear gives you the same thing at all corners, and that way it's a lot easier to make adjustments and not, you know, just keep basically running in circles, which you can easily do if you don't know which direction to go. But when you use Formula One cars, usually the wrench piece is further to one side than the other, and so you want that to the outside on both of them. That way you can actually get to them. If this was facing the opposite direction, the part with the wrench would be like under here, and it would be very hard, if not impossible, to reach. Now, unfortunately, on the directions, they show a turnbuckle with a lot more of a difference from the left side to the right side. These are fairly close left to right, but such as it is. So now I need to mount this assembly to the chassis. And they have the initial setting as being the center hole here. So out of these three holes. Now, I've got this 4mm wrench, because that's how you can grab this little standoff here. I'm going to position the standoff left to right, maybe a little forward, so that I can reach it easily with the wrench. So first thing is to get a little bit of Loctite on here. And you know what? I'm forgetting something. It's going to be even harder to reach these guys here So I am going to go ahead and set that up as well. There is no spacer. This just screws on. And I'll go ahead and get that turnbuckle started as well. Another reason I'm taking the time to do this correctly is that it is entirely possible that I may not have time between Friday night and Sunday morning to make these changes. And I may have to run the car as is. So I would like to know for sure. If I can't do it, no problem. I'll just run it like this, but I want the car assembled. Just because they say it will arrive on Friday. They did have several asterisks after that, meaning that maybe, hell or high water, it may not show. It might come Saturday. And if it doesn't come Saturday, I won't see it at all in time, so. I should do that the other way. You should probably put the wrench end further away so that it's easier for you to reach. Otherwise it might be tucked under the swing arms. Okay. So, okay, we're getting close. Make sure that you get all your turnbuckles where they need to go. These are going to go in between the swing arms. This is my only real complaint so far about this kit, is having us do this late in the assembly. This should have been put in when we were doing the front suspension. It would have been so much easier. Oh God. Not again. Come on. There we go. Okay. Oh, crap. Oh, sorry. Gonna have to edit that out. Had it just right and then lost it. Okay. Let's see if this even works like this. Okay, no, it doesn't. Unbelievable. Okay, so I got some parts in. I got the replacement for this plastic piece with an adjustable aluminum piece. I'm going to start putting that together in just a moment. And I've got a new spur gear. This is a 92 tooth. This is the largest they make for the gear diff. It is the closest to the stock rear spur gear that comes with the kit. So I went with that to keep my gear ratios more in tune to what I was expecting. So I'm going to move forward installing this. You don't need to see that. It's just taking off the axle and putting on removing a couple screws and putting them back on, just like I did earlier when I assembled it. I also got a set of the silver springs in. These are the softest side springs available. So I'm probably may not use those immediately, at least not for first run. So I'm gonna start getting this stuff taken apart, and first I want to do some measuring to make sure that my wheels and tires are going to be the right size. I might need to switch out swing arms, just a possibility. So let me go through that process, make some measurements, and I'll let you know where that goes. Okay, so I have fixed up the front end the way I wanted it. I've got some adjustments to do on my turnbuckles, but one of the things I did was I swapped out the arm plates and went to the wider front end, and also threw in a few extra spacers back here to widen out the rear. I am well within the limitations of the class as far as wheelbase and wheel track are concerned, so no problems. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to take a plug kit here for servo connectors, and I have a crimper for said items, and I am going to shorten this massively long servo wire, which is almost the length of the car, and I'm also going to shorten this guy up too. It'll probably be easier than just rolling it. We'll see. By the time I finish fiddling with the connectors for this one, I may not want to do another one. I hate doing these things. They're a pain, but it's worth getting rid of all that extra wire instead of having this giant bundle, because this is a very tight kit as far as space goes. Our servo is going to eat up most of the available front end space right here. The receiver I'm going to place here. My receivers are very small, fortunately, and the speed control I am going to place right here. I'm going to pretty much have to place it almost up against, I got to be careful about servo. The servo's got to be able to make its full swing, and I don't want the servo running into the speed control. So that may necessitate orienting the speed control like this. In fact, it probably will. In that case, it might actually be better to do it like this. Let's see, orange, yellow, and blue are my motor wires, and so the motor is going to be facing this way, of course, towards the gear. So the rear of the can with the connectors is going to be over here, so I can run these right down the center line and attach them to the motor like so, and then the positive and negative for the batteries are going to plug right over here. I'll set up the batteries so that they face over this way. That seems like the best way to go. Unfortunately, it's a little close to the shock absorber, so I really may need to do it this way. And run the motor wires around the body post like this, down the center of the body, and maybe run the battery so the battery posts are over here. That would make the shortest drop for the wires. I also wish they gave this a shorter run, but I'll probably just attach that to the motor wires, just let it follow the motor wires out, and I've done similar setups like that where I just run the 3 motor wires along with some connectors, and then just zip tie this to the wires like that, and going down the center line of the car, the way the body is shaped, this will be right under the air scoop hump, so that should be fine. I don't see any other way really to go around it other than that. Run the switch and ESC receiver wire around this side over here, and that should work. It's definitely a tight fit, but fortunately this is a very small speed control. I can maybe step it out just a teeny bit like that, and that'll work. And with it, everything positioned like that, I can pretty much take the car apart with this and the ESC and the receiver still attached to the pan. I mean, I want to leave a little bit of a loop. I don't want to cut these wires too short, so I'm figuring about there. Depends on what position I put the speed control in. But yeah, that should do. So, in addition to crimping, I usually solder the connections at this end as well. It's a little more work, but it's a vital connection that you don't want going south on you at some point. So, now there was something else I wanted to show you. I went ahead and installed this piece here. That's 372541. It's kind of expensive, at about $30 to $40. I don't remember exactly, and it'll depend on your vendor. But it's a very nice part. It allows you a much more granular adjustment of your inner location here. So you've got a lot more Ackerman adjustability. Just if you're looking at these 2 holes, there's easily a middle, if not 2 positions in between those 2 holes available, and then even shorter or even longer. So there's a lot of potential for tuning, and I set mine right about in between the 2 holes, so I thought that would be a good starting point. It's a nice looking piece. It's extremely sturdy. And one of the interesting things, another of the many tuning options for this car, is your okay, here's your steering arm right here. These are the 2 suspension arms, upper and lower, and you have it is mounted on a post which mounts it to the main chassis plate. Now you can also use a 10.5 millimeter barrel and a 2 millimeter spacer and a longer screw, a M3 by 20, that will go down through the top plate right here. There's a slotted hole that allows you access to all of the holes underneath, and So regardless of which of these 3 holes you're using, you can run this shim all the way down this screw instead of just having a short screw to attach the arm to the post on the chassis. You're actually sandwiching it in between the main mount and a series of spacers. Basically, that's all they are. And you have your top suspension plate here, and it's sandwiched in between the 2 of those. Now, let me just read you what they describe this does. Steering pivot shaft mounting alternative number 2. With the post connected to the arm mount plate, the steering shaft mount is mounted to the chassis and connected to the arm mount plate with a bushing. This eliminates the flex of the chassis in the steering area, which makes the car more reactive and improves steering response. Sounds good, but at the same time can result in oversteering or front tires overheating in some particular conditions. Recommended for technical tracks or tracks with low to medium traction. Now, the tracks I race at, they do tend to put a lot of switchbacks and stuff, so you could say they're technical, but they are definitely low to medium traction, definitely at the low end. So this is something I may try. And I believe they provide us with that shim. I think, I'm not 100% sure. But again, that's something you can always create for yourself. If it's not included, you don't have to buy a 10.5. You could stack, you know, a couple of, you need to have a total of 12.5. So you could stack 3 4mm spacers and a 0.5 millimeter spacer and get that same height. All it is a pass-through in between the bearing on top and the upper chassis plate. So it's a little hard to get in there to do it. It was hard to take this. It's easy to get this apart. It's hard to get it back together. If you recall, we've got all those spacers in between the top piece here. We've got 3 2mm spacers, 1, 2, and 3 underneath here between the aluminum standoff brackets, and getting those spacers to stay in place while you lower this down and get the screws in place can take a little bit of juggling. But getting the top off to switch the arms was actually quite easy. I took off these 3 screws, and then I removed these 2 screws, which freed up the swing arm. Now, I could have taken off the grub screws or loosened the grub screws and pulled the swing arm free, but I didn't want to change the adjustments on the swing arm and have to remeasure that. So I left those as they were and just took the sway bar mount off with the whole top of the front end steering. You also need to disconnect these 2 C-clips here and make sure that you don't misplace the 0.5 millimeter spacer, the spring, and the 0.5 millimeter spacer that's underneath here between the steering knuckle and this arm. But just, you know, throw those in a little tray, and the whole upper portion comes off. That made it much easier to install the steering linkage, to check things for size and spacing. Having to put this steering linkage, whether it's aluminum or plastic, in here once this is together is difficult, to say the least. Having a 4 millimeter wrench to hold that slotted standoff like so you can tighten is very, very helpful. So make sure you have something like that along for the ride when you're doing this. So other than that, you know, everything is coming together very nicely. I've still got the back end to finish off. There is more chassis framework back here for wing mounting. This is one of the most complex cars I've ever assembled. And I'm not even talking amongst Formula One. I'm talking amongst any car. I've put together four-wheel drive touring cars that weren't this in-depth, and certainly that didn't have this many options, because I'm leaving a lot of stuff off because of the type of track I'm running. You know, for example, those side rails, I'm not bolting those on along with their associated standoffs, because that's for, you know, a very high traction carpet track where you need a very stiff chassis versus a loose, more flexible chassis for a low traction track like outdoor asphalt, which is what I'm going to be running on. Sorry if I'm repeating myself from other videos, but I don't know where you guys are jumping in on the build, so I'm trying to kind of update you. One of the interesting things about this kit is that the wing does not mount to the motor pod. It actually attaches here to this upper battery bracket, which attaches to the main Ford chassis, and there's arms that come back this way and cross over back here, and that's where the wing attaches back here. So the wing is attached to the chassis, not to the motor pod. So it pushes on the chassis in a more uniform way, as opposed to when, you know, when the car is like leaning and your suspension is turning or torquing, and the motor pod is in motion, the wing is not moving with it. The wing stays with the chassis, which is very nice, but it definitely, you know, adds a higher level of complexity to the assembly. You know, fortunately, we have this wonderful substance called carbon fiber, which allows us to make these incredibly rigid yet incredibly thin, waifish, and light structures. You couldn't do this with fiberglass or aluminum. It would just be too heavy or too flexible. Just wanted to show you one more thing while I'm going through here. This is one of the many little tips that I try to throw in for you guys. I can't show you everything in every video, which is one of the reasons I recommend that you watch as many of my builds as you can, because there's always things that I throw in that just come up and you're just not going to see them in every video, and I just don't have the time and the organization to put together every single tool and every technique. This is a pair of wire strippers, and the way they work is, first it clamps down on the wire that is going to be cut, then it clamps the rest of the wire, and it basically rips away the insulation. That allows you to do things like this, to perfectly strip all three wires all at once by just laying that in there and doing that. Very handy. It's not the kind of tool you use every day, but if you're going to build cars, if you're going to be in this hobby any length of time, if you're a general do-it-yourself guy and you do any electrical around the house at all, or for other parts of your hobby, having a set of these is invaluable. One of the reasons I have kits like this is because a lot of times when I'm building airplanes, I want to wire servos into the wing, and I don't just want to use little extensions, and I also want to combine the positive and negative wires. So if I've got two servos, I basically run two signal wires and one pair of positive and negatives that feed both servos. That makes for a lot less wire in the wing. It reduces weight, and not having little connectors and using extensions also reduces weight, and it also reduces the chance of those, you know, it eliminates the possibility that those things are going to come unplugged on you, because everything is solid wire, everything is soldered. Getting kits like this where you can make your own connectors, or even if you want to use extensions, I can make my own extensions exactly the length that I need. So instead of having to choose between like 200 and 150, I can make it 170 millimeters if that's exactly what I need from point A to point B. So learning how to do this, learning how to crimp, getting a crimper tool, getting a good stripper. Okay, that came off kind of dual meaning. Always nice to have a good stripper. So, in any event, I'm going to go ahead and crimp these suckers up and plug them in and, well, solder them first. But anyway, on with the process. I just wanted to show you this tool and explain a little more. One last little tip, handy product, liquid tape. Once I've gotten my connections done and everything looks good, every once in a while you'll have a little bit of metal or wire that is exposed, and I like to take a little bit of this stuff and just make sure that the end is sealed. I won't use this whole thing like this. I'll just take a little dab or two. Oh, obviously didn't clean this very well the last time I sealed it up. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the other wire. This stuff dries very quickly, and as you can see, one nice servo wire done. So, time to do the ESC. Let's see. Probably about halfway should do. It's almost not necessary because it is so short. I would just need to coil it a little bit, but it will make for a much cleaner overall installation. So why not do it? Especially on a car that's this tight for space. And the nice thing is you can always save these extra pieces, and later if you need to splice something up, you've got the beginnings of a another jumper or an extension. So there's my plug. It's always good to have extra of these. Sometimes you screw up one or two of them in the process of trying to get them crimped around the wire properly. This will go easier because the wire is thinner, but still. See, there we go. Now I can separate them a little bit. Like that. And now I can crimp them. Another perfect connection.
hope you enjoyed this video. Please click like and please subscribe to my channel.